doing it all on that defensive possession. Clark. Oh! From another stratosphere!
Lexi Hall doing it all on that defensive possession.
Clark.
OH. From another stratosphere, there is a terrifying, deafening silence echoing across the mainstream sports media establishment this morning. The establishment analysts who spent the entire week defending head coach Stephanie White, the local beat reporters who aggressively covered up the fabricated injury reports, and the WNBA executives who turned a completely blind eye to blatant consumer fraud are currently staring at a
where nobody says, now I do got to say all of this is alleged, but for her to play 32 minutes, solid 32, she had 9 assists. She could still possibly pick up this 10th assist with 41 seconds left and get another double-double. She was 7 of 15 for the field so far. She was 4 or 5 on
basketball box score in absolute unmitigated horror. Because the official statistics from Friday night did not just secure a victory for the Indiana Fever. They completely, mathematically, and undeniably exposed the front office as a syndicate of panicked, ego-driven liars. When you attempt to orchestrate a massive public relations cover-up against a generational genius, you better make sure that player does not step onto the hardwood 48 hours later and completely obliterate your entire narrative on national television. Welcome back. This is, and today we are ripping the doors completely off the hinges to deliver the most explosive, vindicating, and incriminating box score breakdown of the entire 2026 season. We are seamlessly blending the raw cinematic rage of a fan base that was aggressively scammed on Wednesday night with the cold, hard, indisputable analytical credibility of Friday night's 90-82 victory over the previously undefeated Golden State Valkyries. If you thought the civil war inside the Indiana Fever locker room was cooling down because of a single win, you need to radically recalibrate your reality. We are going to break down Caitlin Clark's 22-point masterpiece, expose the miraculous, mathematically impossible healing of her supposed back injury, highlight the absolute dominance of Aaliyah Boston, and reveal the unprecedented coaching malpractice Stephanie White just committed out of pure, unadulterated spite. Let us set the scene and completely dismantle the greatest medical miracle in the history of professional sports. I don't care what nobody says. Now, I do got to say all of this is alleged, but for her to play 32 minutes solid 32, she had 9 assists. She can still possibly pick up this assist with 41 seconds left and get another double. She was 7 to 15 for the field so far. She was 4 or 5 on free throw. Just 48 hours ago, we were explicitly told by General Manager Amber Cox and head coach Stephanie White that Caitlin Clark was physically incapable of playing a basketball game against the weakest expansion team in the league. She was suddenly scratched an hour before tip-off. White stood at the podium and arrogantly declared that Clark woke up with severe back stiffness, claiming the medical staff needed to be extremely cautious and give the back issue time to heal. It was presented to the public as a debilitating, unpredictable injury that justified completely scamming thousands of paying fans out of their hard-earned ticket money. But then the bright lights turned on for national television against the undefeated Golden State Valkyries. And miraculously, magically, the completely broken back was entirely cured. Caitlin Clark did not just step onto the floor on Friday night. She played 32 grueling, highly physical minutes against an elite, undefeated defensive juggernaut. She played more minutes than anyone else on the entire roster. She completely orchestrated the offense, logging 22 points and 9 assists. She shot 46% from the field, knocked down 4 of her 9 attempts from beyond the three-point arc, and commanded a +7 rating while on the floor. She looked completely sharp, entirely decisive, and infinitely more dangerous than ever before. Let the sheer biological absurdity of this situation completely wash over you. You do not go from having a spine so severely compromised that you cannot even dress in uniform on Wednesday to playing 32 minutes of elite high-usage 94-foot transition basketball on Friday. It is a biological and physiological impossibility. Dark passes, bro. So, no, it was Janelle Sloan and Caitlin Clark. Referees had to step in. Look at Caitlin, guys. Showing how tough she is, hitting logo threes as well, getting inside. Just Caitlin is so damn good, bro. I think, man, it's just crazy how this specific box score is the ultimate undeniable smoking gun. It mathematically proves exactly what has been stating since the absolute beginning. The injury on Wednesday was a complete fabricated PR lie. It was a premeditated load management scam designed to protect ticket sales, or it was an underthought suspension levied by a highly insecure coaching staff. Caitlin Clark was perfectly healthy on Wednesday. She was maliciously benched. And when the front office realized they were facing a federal-level investigation from the WNBA League office and a massive financial boycott from the fans, they panicked, abandoned their fake medical narrative, and threw their franchise savior back onto the court to save their own jobs. And when Caitlin Clark is actually allowed to operate without Stephanie White grabbing her arm on the sidelines, the entire ecosystem of the Indiana Fever completely thrives. Look at what happened to Aaliyah Boston the exact second Clark returned to the lineup to feed her the basketball. Boston looked like a legitimate, undisputed MVP candidate. She played 29 minutes, completely dominated the paint, scored 20 points on an incredibly efficient 8 of 15 shooting, and grabbed a staggering 16 rebounds, including 4 offensive boards. 16 rebounds. She was a plus 15 on the floor. This is the best statistical performance any Fever player has delivered. This is the connection that makes this team a terrifying threat to the rest of the league. And we absolutely must acknowledge the ice-cold, high-pressure execution of Kelsey Mitchell. Mitchell played 31 minutes and went a flawless 11 for 111 from the free throw line. 0%. She finished with 19 points and a plus 6 rating. When the game slows down and the pressure mounts, going perfect from the charity stripe is exactly the kind of reliability a Supermax player is supposed to provide. But while the players on the floor executed a masterpiece, the head coach sitting on the sidelines was actively committing sabotage. Think call timeout. I don't know what happened. I got to see what happened, guys. So, I'm streaming the game right here on my phone. Why would the Fever call a timeout? Let me see. Oh, probably, so they can run a clock. Crazy Caitlin Carrot just came up. Let me see here. We have to talk about the absolute jaw-dropping spitefulness of Stephanie White's rotations in this game. Just 24 hours prior, the Indiana Fever front office finally surrendered to the demands of the analytical community. They waived Chidori Walker-Kimbrough and signed Grace Van Slutton, a 6 feet 3 inches athletic forward who provides the exact physical length, transition speed, and defensive motor the team desperately needs. It was a massive victory for common sense. The front office brought in the exact tool necessary to secure rebounds and run the floor with Clark. So, what does Stephanie White do with this crucial new acquisition in a high-stakes game against an undefeated opponent? She completely glues her to the pine. She plays Grace Van Slutton for exactly 1 minute and 44 seconds. 1 minute and 44 seconds. That is not roster management. That is pure, unadulterated, toxic executive ego. Stephanie White was so completely furious that the front office capitulated to the fans and signed an athletic forward that she actively chose to jeopardize a basketball game just to prove a point. She would rather play small ball, watch her guards get completely exhausted and risk losing to the Valkyries than admit that the internet was right. She put Van Slutton in for a microscopic cup of coffee just to say she played her and then immediately buried her on the bench. It is the definition of a toxic work environment. And the absolute hypocrisy of the box score does not stop there. Caitlin is just so much better. Bro. The announcer just said Kayla. Listen, they just said Caitlin Clark is an instant MVP candidate. Look at the very bottom of the official statistics. Look at Dairis Danta's DNP, coach's decision. Remember last week? Remember when Stephanie White proudly stood at a press conference podium and explicitly threatened to run her entire half-court offense through Dairis Dantas in the high post? Remember when she used Dantas as the primary excuse to take the basketball out of Caitlin Clark's hands? It was the quote that set the entire fan base on fire. And now against the best team in the league, the player who is supposed to be the foundational hub of the quarter-court offense catches a completely healthy DNP. She did not play a single second. It completely exposes White's press conference as a fabricated, desperate lie. She never intended to run the offense through Dantes. She just wanted to publicly humble Caitlin Clark and to maintain our absolute, unbiased analytical credibility. There are real objective concerns from this performance that we are not going to ignore. Caitlin Clark had 6 turnovers. That is the 5th consecutive game where Clark has committed 4 or more turnovers. Some were aggressive reads that went wrong, and some were brilliant defensive plays by the Valkyries, but the volume is too high. That is a statistical pattern that must be addressed. Furthermore, while Mitchell was perfect from the line, the team as a whole missed 7 free throws, shooting just under 76%. Lexi Hull went a deeply concerning 1 for 4 from the charity stripe in a tighter game. Leaving 7 points on the board is a catastrophic failure, bro. So, she's still at 16 rebounds with 24 seconds left in this one. Kane Clark don't look like she's going to get a double-double, but you never know. You just never know. But they out filing, so I doubt she get it. 22-9 and 9 and 2. 2-29 and 2. Solid numbers. Bro, Caitlin Clark been averaging 20 points a game, guys. She's been easily average. The Indiana Fever won the basketball game 90-82. They handed the Golden State Valkyries their very first loss of the season. They are officially 4-2, and they were literally one single possession away in both of their overtime losses from being completely undefeated. On paper, it looks like a massive triumph. But if you actually understand the psychology of professional sports, you know that this box score is a ticking time bomb. Caitlin Clark is currently carrying a completely broken, incredibly toxic organization squarely on her back. She is playing 32 minutes a night while her general manager trolls fans on social media, and her head coach actively sabotages new acquisitions out of pure spite. The front office is currently holding their breath, desperately hoping that this 22-point masterpiece will make the WNBA League office forget about the fabricated injury reports and the consumer fraud from Wednesday night. But the internet never forgets. We have the receipts. We have the timeline. We know that the back injury was a scam. We know that Stephanie White is a petty tyrant. And we know that this franchise is surviving entirely on the superhuman willpower of a 24-year-old point guard who cannot escape Indianapolis fast enough. This is... Smash that subscribe button right now if you want the absolute, unvarnished, high-octane truth about the darkest, most deceptive front office dynamics in the WNBA that the cowardly mainstream media refuses to cover. Drop your most explosive, unfiltered take in the comments below. Does Caitlin Clark playing 32 minutes prove that the Indiana Fever faked her injury on Wednesday? And should Stephanie White be fired for benching Grace Ben's slut-ton out of pure spite? I want every single honest basketball opinion in that comment section. Hit the notification bell because the Federal League investigations are still looming. The momentum is shifting and we are documenting every single piece of the wreckage. We will see you in the next.